So I actually almost didn't finish season 3 of Heartstoppers, and not because I don't like the show. I love the show. I love the graphic novels. I'm a big fan. But this season hit really close to home. And for that reason, the first 4 episodes in particular were hard to get through. I think it's incredibly important and admirable that this season is touching upon exploring further the mental health issues that Charlie has. And it really is incredible to see this type of representation on screen. But if you are someone who has had struggles with this, it may hit a little too close to home. So just a little warning. I did actually get through the entire season. I ended up loving it. I loved what it stood for. I loved everything. It just took a little pause for me to kind of center myself. But no, I really think that the first 4 episodes do a really good job at kind of walking you through Charlie Spring's mental health issues. It's really from the perspective of those around him, which I thought was an interesting perspective to add, an interesting point of view, because so often in TV shows, in movies that deal with mental health issues, you focus on the person, so you really understand more of what it is that they're going through, and you can kind of map out what it is that led them to the point that they are a little bit. But in this case, if you're seeing it from the outside, it is so jarring. I think that's really what got me, because it really does focus on like Nick and his parents and Tori and them seeing Charlie go through this and how hard it is. And it's something that when you're in it, you don't totally realize. I mean, you're aware that it affects other people, but you're so focused on surviving and getting through it yourself, that if you think too hard about what it's doing to other people, it just makes you feel even worse about yourself. And I think that framing of this conversation around the mental health of Charlie is really interesting and really brought me to tears multiple times, especially the 3rd episode. The 4th episode was also equally as powerful. But I think that there is so much of a bigger conversation that can be had, because it like Charlie, he has a very strong support system that is there for him. But this is something that you have to realize if you're someone who does not have mental health issues, that it is very hard for you, no matter how loving and supporting your family and your friends are, it's hard for you to actually believe that you can talk to them or that they'll actually be there for you, because at this point you've been putting up walls, you've been hiding these issues for so long that you kind of start to think that their love and support is conditional on you pretending to be okay. And you see that reflected here with Charlie's character, how hard it is for him to get the help that he needs. There's a concept in here in the show that talks about that voice in his head that's kind of guiding him, and it really is a voice that kind of reels you more into yourself, and it's so dangerous. And this show didn't shy away from that, which I think is so beautiful. And I think everyone, or a lot, at least a majority of the population, at one point or another has been Charlie Springs. I've been Charlie Spring. I have been scared, but you live and you learn how to deal with these things. And it never gets easy, but it does get easier. And I think that there's so much that this TV show will do for younger people who aren't quite sure how to verbalize what it is that they're feeling internally. And for that, I think it's so important. I will just say, kind of a little side note, is that I do think that the representation of mental health and raising mental health issues, awareness for that, has been great over the last couple of years. But I think that we won't get to a real place in progress until we are flooded with this type of content, flooded with representation. Because for someone who is dealing with these issues, one show might not be enough. There's obviously so many other things that are more individualized to the person, but in terms of media and entertainment, you have to be flooded with this type of content to feel like it's okay for yourself to be open and vulnerable and willing to grow and to get help. So that's just my little thing. I'm always for more representation, especially regarding to mental health, sexual orientation, all of those things that are so real for some people, but they're so scary to talk about. But getting back to the show, I think after the first 4 episodes, really then shifts a little bit into intimacy and exploring your own identity a little bit more, which I think This is something that's been a staple of the show forever, a staple of the graphic novels. Alice Osman does a really good job at coming at it from a place that is very open and honest. And I think a big criticism that a lot of people have faced against this show is the fact that it's kind of cringe, it's kind of whatever. But we have to remember, these are teenagers, these are kids going through this situation. And I think that if you think this is a little cringe, maybe that says a little bit more about you and about your inability to be vulnerable, to really open yourself up to experiences. I think that there's a lot of cynicism towards that. And that is that cynical nature in a lot of people. When they see this show, it is kind of a direct response to the lack of representation that we had when we were growing up. So I think that there's nothing wrong with this show being cringe, really just being more open, more vulnerable, showing you its heart. And there's really something so beautiful about that, that I'm hoping that, as we get older, as more generations come, that each generation gets a little bit more vulnerable, more open, more willing to show their love and to show their true colors, because we have seen what it's like when people repress who they are, and it's not cool, it's not nice. So yeah, whoever's saying the show is cringe, you maybe open yourself up a little bit more, maybe come at it from a perspective of wanting to be open and knowing that there's nothing wrong with that. So yes, I really like also the addition of Gemma Arterton. I know that she was kind of like the maternal figure in place of Olivia Colman, who was deeply missed. I mean, she's deeply missed everywhere. I deeply miss her right now. I've never even met her. But yes, she was a great addition to the cast. There's also an exploration of Darcy's gender identity, which I think was really honest, and it's really interesting how it reflects the real life actor who portrays Darcy's journey. Obviously different because, you got to separate actor from character, but there was a lot of truth hidden within that journey. There's also Tara's dealing with being an overachiever and what that means when she doesn't quite want what other people want for her. That's also a very interesting dynamic. Tao and Elle's relationship, a lot of the relationships that are further explored, and that's where you get to that intimacy, that sort of different connection that happens when you have sexual relations with someone else. It really deepens your connection and it changes it. And so that's what the second half of this series was about. And I think that it does a really great job at exploring that in a way that is in a Heartstopper fashion, which is very, honest, funny, just very real. And I think that that's really special. I think this show is so good, and I can't wait to see if they continue. I'm sure they'll continue at least one or two more seasons, just to kind of wrap up a lot of the storylines. But yes, those were my thoughts on Heartstopper season 3. Have you seen Heartstoppers? Have you read the comics? Would love to hear what you have to talk about, and if any of these stories are hitting close to you and how they're helping you, because I think that's ultimately what this show is aiming for, is to create the audiences to open up about themselves, about other people, and really love each other. And I think that that's beautiful.